We're going to talk about Mama Justice today, but what we want to talk about is how you became Mama Justice, and apparently that starts in Alpine, Mississippi.
It does. I was raised up there, went to school at East Union High School, graduated from East Union in 1983, and funny thing, when I was in school, I used to want to be the first woman president at the turn of the century. I had already figured out I'd be past 35 years old, and 2000 seemed like a long time away, and that was what I wanted to be. So it's been a long way getting here, but it's been a wonderful ride.
So are you from a big family, small family?
No, well, I mean, our extended family is big. I have a sister that's 18 months younger than I, so we kind of grew up as twins. Everybody thought we were twins growing up. And my mom and dad were divorced when we were very young. But when I was in the 4th grade, they remarried each other. And my little brother was born. So I'm 16 years older than my little brother. So he's kind of been like, I tell people his feet didn't touch the ground until he was 5 years old. He was like our little doll.
Yeah. So when you were going to school and you had these big plans, is that something that your mom encouraged, that your teachers encouraged, that you need to keep going to school?
My mom didn't graduate high school. She went to the 10th grade. She did get her GED eventually, but she always instilled in us a work ethic. It was always about going the extra mile. She was stern. She demanded we make good grades, and that really came easy for me. I loved school. I loved to read. I can remember at my grandmother's house, she had a Bible story book, and I would spend hours just reading those Bible stories. But when I got 16 years old, my mom worked at Lucky Star, which was a garment factory in Baldwin. And so she told me that summer I was going to work because I was old enough to work. And I did. I went and I tacked belt loops on Levi blue jeans that summer. I made production one day out of that whole summer. So I have a very, very much appreciation for these folks that work in industry. After that summer, I worked at a furniture plant for 3 summers, while I was in high school. And, we weren't rich by any means. I really didn't know that we didn't have as much as other people. I didn't have a car until I went to Ole Miss, so, it was, but I didn't really miss it either. A lot of kids, wasn't like it is today when you get your driver's license, everybody gets a car. But I had everything that I needed. But it was really my mom. My dad was an alcoholic, so he struggled with that his whole life. But my mom really made sure that we all went to school and we made good grades. We didn't miss school. I mean, if you were sick, if you weren't in the bed, you were at school, So I think that has just instilled a very strong work ethic and a very strong appreciation for all the things that I have now.
What'd you do for fun when you were little? I mean, did y'all do family things or just get together, or was it school activities, or is it school and work?
Yeah. Well, when my mom and dad remarried, we were really attached to my maternal grandmother and granddaddy. So they would come get us every other weekend, and we would go to their house. And my aunt and uncle didn't have children then, and they would take us to the skating rink in Boonville. It was called the Harris Skating Rink. People may know about it, but they had wooden floors, and so we would go skating. That was the fun thing. We played outside. We made mud pies. We had some, 1 or 2 baby dolls. I never had Barbies. I had one cousin that I thought she was rich because she had Barbies, because they were
expensive.
Yeah. She had all these little containers of clothes, and I was just, when we'd go to her house, it was like a treat to get to play with Barbies. But we played outside. We cut grapevines, and we swung on the grapevines in the woods, and it was just a very normal childhood. Now, like I said, I come from some brokenness with the alcoholism, so that made it tough too. Because when you grow up in that kind of environment, it's always the big days, the Christmases, the birthdays that tend to get messed up, by somebody acting out. But I don't know. We had a wonderful childhood,
Then when you went to Ole Miss and stepped on campus, was it what you thought it would be? Was it, you came from a small community, and college is always a culture shock no matter where you're coming from.
Well, I went to Northeast first, and that was a good move because at Northeast, we had great professors. They cared whether you came to school or not. And when I left Northeast, I went to Ole Miss on full scholarship. And when I got to Ole Miss, though, that's when I figured out that people didn't care whether you went to school. And I'd never lived away from home, and I'd never had a car. And unfortunately, I made some very poor decisions during that time in my life. But yeah, it was nothing like I expected.
But it is, I do think that it's really a great idea for kids sometimes to go into community college and just have a little extra attention from professors before they go on to that university.
I always tell, young people that at church or that work here or that I come in contact with, those 2 years that you can spend at a community college are wonderful years because it helps your GPA. And you don't realize it, but when you get ready to go to law school, that GPA is very important, or if you want to go to any other, higher education. So we have wonderful community college between ICC and Northeast and East Community College. It's just, have students, I tell them now, you can be anything you want to. It's the want tos you have to worry about because there's always a way to get to school, and school can take you out of any situation you're in and bring you to a higher level. That's what it's done for me.
Did you know when you transferred to Ole Miss for undergrad that you wanted to keep going?
I did. No one in my family had ever gone to college, and so I wanted to get my degree. And in 1986, that was my first year at Ole Miss, and like I said, I didn't make wise decisions, and my mom pretty much said, if you're not going to go to class, you're going to come home and work, and I did. So I went to work after that at it was Bank of Mississippi then, and started working for them, and they had a wonderful program that they paid for your college, books, mileage, and tuition. If you made an A, they'd pay 100% after the fact. So I started going to school at night and working during the day and finished my undergraduate that way.
So you have always worked around the clock, it sounds like, whether it's school or work.
Yes, but I love it. I love school. If I could get paid to go to school, I'd go to school because I am just, I think that being in a constant state of learning is what keeps us young and keeps us relevant and keeps us happy, for the most part.
So then after you graduated undergrad, did you go directly into law school?
No, I worked at the bank for 11 years. And I really just worked my way up. They said, the first level was to be an officer, and I wanted to be an officer. So you had to have your degree. So I worked really hard on my undergraduate to get that degree. And I was working in the credit card center, and I was working on some community bank documents. And one of the attorneys that we used, there were several different documents, and I combined it to make a standard document for our community bank agreements. And he made a flippant remark. He's like, "Girl, you should have gone to law school." And I was like, well, I think I might. So I went over to the Tupelo campus because that's where I'd, done my night school. And I said, I want to enroll in law school. And they said, well, you can't just enroll. You have to take the LSAT. You have to apply, and you have to be accepted. So I was like, okay. So I made a list. And I took the LSAT, and I applied. And then I got accepted. And I was just like, then there was this huge crossroads because I had 2 little boys. I was married by this time, and they were 1 and 3. And I was in lower level management at the bank and, making pretty good money for a woman. And we had bought a house and, my husband had a motorcycle and we had a little boat and we had, we were living the dream. And I carried all the health insurance because he was self-employed. And I was like, but I want to go to law school, but I'll have to quit my job. And that was such a tough decision, but I very strong in my faith, and I prayed about it, and I just felt God leading me to that. And so that's what I did. I quit my job at the bank, and I started full-time in law school, because at that time, the law school didn't want you to work your first year. So the first year, I tried not to work, but my husband was self-employed, so I had, I helped him some. And then I just started commuting back and forth from Tupelo to Ole Miss. And after the first year, I then went back to work at the bank and started a bankruptcy program for their credit card department. So then I worked my way through the last 2 years of law school. And when I finished up, it was the year 2000. That's amazing. I wasn't president, but God had a plan for me. And I had just finished up law school in 2000. And the bank approached me about coming back to work for them full time and centralizing. They had loan files in 8 states. And so I worked to centralize all their loan files to Tupelo. And I went back and worked there for 10 more years before I actually practiced law.
And in the meantime, you were raising little boys?
I was. I mean, it was wonderful. I mean, we had a neighborhood full of little boys and a few little girls, but most of them were boys. I tell people they used to run through our neighborhood like a pack of dogs. They would just, visit everybody's house. But that's how I got the name, really. Mama Justice arrived from Mama Missy, because a lot of those kids would call me Mama Missy because, my grandmother, when I was little, it was, you got to stay in or out, you got to play outside, and it wasn't no in and out. But I was like maybe too lenient, I don't know. But they knew that my house was one of them. They could come in, they could eat, and they could drink or whatever. So that's how Mama Missy got started. And some of those kids still call me Mama Missy.
So you went through school, you went back into working full time, and you got these boys that you're raising, and then you say, I think I'm going to make another turn.
I did. At that point, my marriage, I had gone through a divorce, and my boys were 14 and 16, and I really went through a rough patch. My parents had been divorced, and I didn't want my children to grow up in a divorced home. But then after the arguing and all that didn't stop, it was better that they be in peace than with two parents that wasn't getting along. Mm-hmm. So we divorced, and that's when I actually started practicing law. Mm-hmm. And I worked for a firm here that did all kinds of law. And it was a great move because I was able to learn a whole lot. I tell folks, when you're in law school, they don't teach you how to be a lawyer. They teach you how to read and write. Before I went to law school, I thought everything was right or wrong. It was black and white. And really what law school taught me is that there's all different sides to every situation. And there's a lot of gray. And a lot of times it's not black and white. And you've got to be able to see things from different angles. It's a broader approach to life.
Was that a surprise?
It really was. It really was, because I was raised in a strict household. Mm-hmm. You obeyed or you were punished. You were right or you were wrong. Like my mom, when she got home, the house was clean and supper was started, and if it wasn't, we were in trouble. And we just learned that you had to act and do and be a certain way. And it really was eye-opening to learn that there's just different angles to look at things, and it's not always black and white. It'd be easy if it was always black and white, but it's not.
At some point, then you were single. You had teenage boys. At what point did you meet your husband?
Well, like I said, that failed marriage took a lot out of me, and I'm not happy about some of the decisions I made after that point, but I was a broken person, and I was really looking for that peace and happiness. And a lot of times that don't come without hurt. And like the addiction in my family, I had, I had drank when I was in college, like most kids do. And that was what got me in the trouble when I had to go back home and didn't finish out my year. But I had gone 21 years being the Sunday school teacher and the VBS leader and the North Mississippi Christian Women's president. And I had really tried hard to be what I thought everybody wanted me to be. But when my marriage failed, I was angry. I was angry with God, and I was angry with the world. And I went back and I picked the bottle up again and I started drinking. And that lasted for a while. And then I didn't see any, I was just losing everything. And my oldest son had been to rehab 4 times, and he had the same drinking problem. So in 2017, I went to treatment, and I got sober. And
congratulations.
Come October, it'll be 6 years. And
that is wonderful.
I work really, I still go to meetings every day, and I work hard to help people that struggle with that, because I do believe it's a family thing. I do believe it's genetic. I do believe it's a disease. I don't believe it's just acting out, because it doesn't make sense that some people can have a glass of wine, and then some people it takes the whole bottle. But so 2017, I went to treatment. I had reconnected with my husband in 2016 at a 30-year class reunion. He came back. He had been in Texas for 30 years. And he came back, and we had dated on and off. But
do you remember him from school?
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't one of those people you went, who are you?
No. We actually ran in the same circles, and he was one of my good friends back then. He was just older.
Did he have a car?
He did have a car. He was 5 years older than me, so he just thought that I was a kid, And I guess when you're in the 8th grade and they're in 12th grade, you do seem like a kid. But we reconnected, and he would come back, every weekend or every other weekend. He would come home because his parents still live here. And so in 2017, he said, Missy, you can't go back to Tupelo, back into that same environment, because he had come to Family Week that we had at the treatment facility. So he took me back to Texas with him. And that's where we got married, in Texas. And I went to work for a personal injury firm out there. And, Mama Justice was really invented. It was a phone in the corner of our apartment in Texas. And we were going to start taking some Mississippi cases. The attorney I worked for in Fort Worth, we had worked out a deal with him, because Mississippi cases, we have favorable laws here. And I was going to work them from Texas. And we were going to put up a billboard at Crosstown. And that was in 2018, so it was about this time. Maybe in July to the first part of August, that was when Mama Justice was invented. I mean, that was, 5 years ago. So, but
everything changed.
Everything changed. On September the 3rd of 2018, I got the worst call of my life. And my oldest son had passed, and he's the one that had struggled with addiction. I'd talked to him the night before, and he said, Mama, I'm going to do it this time, and if I don't, you pull the plug, you know. And I'd always heard that people that threatened to do that never do it. So I called his dad, and he said, oh, he'll be fine, you know. And I went down, and I sat down by my bed, and I opened my Bible. And then I turned to the story in Kings about Josiah. Josiah was a little boy that became king, and he rid the temples of all the idols at 8 years old. And so I was like, I don't know why I'm reading this guy, but I was just looking for comfort, anything. And I remembered that when Macon, that was my son's name, when he was born, his name for a whole day was Josiah. And my mom, she couldn't pronounce it. She's like, please don't name that baby that. And so my husband wanted Mason, and I wanted Mason. My husband wanted Mac. So we compromised on Macon. But then I felt this huge peace just rush over me after I thought that. And I was like, God, this is it. This is Macon's bottom. And he's going to rid his temple of, you know, and he's going to get sober. Because I've been, you know, harping on it now. But the next day, when I didn't hear from him, I couldn't get him on the phone, and I was in Texas, and I called my ex-husband. I was like, you got to go check on Macon. And that's when he found him. And it was just the worst day ever. So that really changed things. He had a 4-year-old daughter at the time. She was my only grandchild. And she is the spitting image of him. She's the one on the commercials. And so I told my husband, I was like, I don't want to be in Texas anymore. I want to go home. And so he started making plans. He's such a wonderful man. I tell folks, he's Mama Justice. He just uses my face and my name. But he does all of our advertising and, you know, helps me, just kind of points me in the right direction, keeps me grounded. But we came home, and we set up shop right down the road in a little building, about, you know, three offices in it. We had, by that time I had about 5 cases just from people that had been calling in, and we opened the doors and we took anything: child custody, divorce, bankruptcy, criminal charges, anything, you know, just to keep the lights on. It was just me, and I had a little girl helping me answer the phone. And, you know, God rewards effort. I am sure of that. And I mean, he just blessed us. The people started coming in, and then we got, you know, 10 cases and 20 cases. And this was in March of 2019 that we opened the doors here.
Don't you think, though, you know, there's that song about the broken road, and don't you think that every step has probably led you to being able to do what you do for other people?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, because we really, at Mama Justice, our main focus is on the client. And people don't call us if they're doing great. They call us when they're hurt and when they're going through a bad time. And I believe that all of my life experiences has helped me to relay that to our staff so that they feel that empathy toward other people, you know, especially folks that have lost children. I mean, I have a huge, huge place in my heart for them. And God is so good. He just, without him, you know, I wouldn't be anything. And I say that with all earnestness. Every day I get up in my morning, I read my Bible, I write in my journal, and I hit my knees, and I pray to God that he creates in me a clean heart and renews a right spirit in me. And as long as that happens, then I'm going to be what I need to be for other people, because we're all he's got down here, you know. And Mama Justice has just exploded. I mean, who would have thought we could be Mississippi's fastest growing company?
And also, it was just that latest list. What was it?
Inc. 5000.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah. And, the second largest or second fastest growing law firm in the whole United States. It's just amazing.
But so what that says to me is that people hear you and they do feel that connection, that they feel that you are genuine and sincere and that you have a team of people who can help them.
Yes, I mean, you can read our reviews. Those reviews are put on there by real people. And we have 12 core values at Mama Justice. And they're modeled after the 12 steps. 6 are inward facing toward the employees here, and 6 are outward facing toward our employees. And I'll have to take you to our training room because we have them painted on the walls in there. But if we have any doubt on what we need to do in a situation, we fall back on our core values. And, those are exceed expectations, leave it better than you found it, create client confidence. There's 12 of them, but they're all client-centric and employee-centric, so that, our main focus is on the client, because these are really tough times that they're going through. And we do put them first, and we do work hard every day. Work ethic is something I can't teach people. And if you don't have it, you don't work here very long. And I owe that to my mom, because that's what she instilled in me, and that's what my expectations are. And I don't have any problem telling folks what my expectations are. So everybody knows what, we're all on the same page and we're all singing from the same sheet of music.
So you're glad you came home?
Oh, absolutely. I get to spend time. I now have 2 granddaughters. I have a younger son. He works with us here. He's one of our investigators and legal assistants, and he's finished his undergraduate, and he's hoping to get into law school. And so he has a little girl, and then my oldest granddaughter's 10 now. She spent the night with me last night, and I was able to get her ready for school this morning, and that's the best. That's the best.
Yeah. Well, she is precious in those commercials. I mean,
Thank you.
I think that's part of what actually sort of kicked it off, is that people, recognized her voice. She was so cute.
Mm-hmm. And Carson, the little boy in our commercials, his grandmother was one of my first clients when I opened up in the small, and I had known her because she had worked at the cleaners where I used to use them, but she had a wreck, and she called me. And so everything he says, that my granny was in a wreck, Mama Justice paid her, all that is true, and he is phenomenal. After we finished up her wreck, she sent me a video. She said, "This is my grandson, Carson," and he's brought us a lot of business. He told me not long ago, he's like, "Miss Missy, he's got his teeth back now, and he's grown up, so he needs a new commercial." So we're working on the new and improved Carson.
I love it. That's great. So if someone wants to call your office and get in touch with you, what do they need to know? What do they need to be able to tell you? What information do they need to bring? Is that something that your staff helps with? They'll say, these are the things we need to know to be able to go forward with whatever case you have.
We have a wonderful intake department. So all they need to do is call our number, 662-883-MAMA, which is 6262. And our ladies will take it from there. They will walk them through every step of the way. They don't even have to come to the office. We can sign them electronically. Or if they want to come to the office, that's fine. We can send investigators to their house to sign them up. I'm here every day, usually by 6:30 or 7, and I don't usually leave till that, 6:30 in the afternoon. So, a lot of people are surprised. Well, gosh, I didn't know I was going to get to meet with you. Well, I work a caseload just like all of our other attorneys. So you come, you'll get to meet with me. A lot of times they'll say, "I want to talk to Mama Justice first." That's good. I'll talk to them, So.
Well, and all of this has led you to expand a little,
We
to
have.
include another office, I should say.
That's right. We've had our Jackson, Mississippi office open for over a year now, but in the next 2 weeks, we're going to be opening a brand new office in Columbus. So we are so excited about that. It's right across from Bank First on Main Street. It's the old Renaissance Bank building. We've totally remodeled it. And I'll have an office there. I'll have 2 full-time attorneys in that office. And it's beautiful. The folks renovating it have done a wonderful job for us. So I'm excited for everybody in Columbus and the surrounding areas to come by our office and come get a Mama Justice hat or a Mama Justice t-shirt or just say hello. We'd like that.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with people who watch your commercials and see your billboards in closing?
Well, I've said this before, that, I'm real and I've been through a lot of ups and downs in my life. And I do have a true love and concern for people and my fellow man. And if there's anything that I can do to help people, even if it's not in an accident situation, if you just need advice, or if you want to see what it's like to work in the legal field, give us a call. We're all about helping our fellow man, giving back to the community. So we treasure that, and we're thankful that we get that opportunity. I tell people all the time, that I'm not the miracle worker. God just allows me to participate in His miracles sometimes, and that's what's wonderful.